Hello, welcome back to my channel Lomzy Sews. In today's sewing tutorial, I'll be showing you how to make this jumpsuits, wide leg palazzo jumpsuits with spaghetti straps. If that's what you want to learn, continue watching to the end to see how I made it. It's very simple and is beginner friendly. I've made a jumpsuit tutorial before, but I decided to make another one because that video is long. Now guys, let's start with the tutorial. To make this, I'll be using 3 yards of African fabric. As you can see, I've folded my fabric into two. As you can see, I'm going to cut the front first and then I'll use the front to cut out the back. So first, I'm going to take the length of the jumpsuit. I want the length of the jumpsuit to be from my shoulder. I want it to be 58 inches. I'm sorry the camera is not catching the front, the upper side. So first thing I'm going to take after taking the length is the armhole. Next is the waistline and then the hip line. So from the waistline, I'm going to come down to the hip line, which is 8.5 inches for mine. Also from the waistline, I'm going to take the crotch depth. The crotch depth is 12 inches. I'll add 1.5 inches to that, which will make it 13.5, and I'll mark it there. And then the final length, which you guys already know, which is 58 inches. So I'll mark that there. I'll go ahead and square out all these lines. I'll walk you through the lines that I have marked out again. So here I have the armhole, I'm writing A. Next is the waistline, which is W. Next is the hip line, I use H, and then the crotch depth or the body rise. Next is to get the body circumference. So on these lines, I'm going to mark the body circumference. So I'm going to use my hips divided by 4. So my hips is 43 inches. I'm going to divide 43 inches divided by 4. And I will add ½ inch ease allowance to that and also 1 inch sewing allowance. So I have here 11.75. I'm going to add ½ inch sewing allowance, easing allowance, and then 1 inch sewing allowance to this. And I'm going to mark this line here. I would square the line down to the hemline, just because we need to get the circumference, and this line will now be the center front of the jumpsuit. So this now will be the center front, and that's where we'll be taking our measurements from. Let me take this thing down so that you'll be able to see the upper side of the jumpsuit. Next, I'm going to divide the shoulder divided by 2. You don't really need this, but I'm doing this for my beginners. So I'm going to get the shoulder divided by 2 and I'm going to square it down to the armhole length. I'll go ahead and connect this line. At least this line, with this line, you should be able to understand what I'm doing. I'm going to drop the shoulder slope with 1.5 inches. Guys, really, you don't need this, but I'm just doing this. Next is to get the neck width. So I'm going to connect these two lines like this. I'll go ahead and shape the side seam. So on the armhole, I'm going to come in 1 inch, and on the waistline, I'll come in 1.5 inches. And then I'm going to connect this line like this and drop the other one down to the hip line. So next we're going to make the armhole curve. To do that, you guys know what I do. I will just divide whatever I have on the armhole into 2. Wherever that is, it will help me it will guide me to mark the armhole curve. So this is the normal way I do my thing. The next thing I'm going to get is the length of the neckline. I want to go down 7 inches. You saw how the neckline is on me. If you want to increase yours, if you want to reduce it, whatever. So next on this line, I'm going to get this. Remember, this is the center front. I'm going to get 5 inches for the neck width, and then I'm going to make 1 inch for the strap, and then I'll connect this line to the armhole line like this, and then I will bring down the neckline to the to the armhole line. I just want it to sit properly. I went ahead and added sewing allowance all around. Next is for us to mark the body rise extension or the crotch extension. Remember, the body rise and the crotch extension is the same thing. So this is the hip line and this is the body rise, remember. So I'm going to come out crotch extension 4.5 inches. If you're on the plus size, you can use for 5.5. And then from that angle I will come out 1 inch, and then I will now make the crotch curve. Is it called crotch or crouch? I don't know. Anyway, I made the curve there, and then I'm going to drop the 4 inches down. For the length of the spaghetti strap, remember we took 7 inches. I'm going to times that by 2, which will give me 14. So 14 inches is the length of our spaghetti strap. So next I'm going to go ahead and cut this out, and I'll use this to cut the back panel. If you have been watching till this time and you have not subscribed to this channel, or you have not given this video a thumbs up, or this is your first time coming across my channel and you have not subscribed, what are you waiting for? Join this community by subscribing and turning on your notification bell icon. And to my returning subscribers, you guys are the real deal. Thank you for your support, for your comments, likes and shares. I appreciate a whole lot. Guys, this is it after cutting it out. Can you see? The next thing I would do is let me just cut out the side seam because it's still on fold. So I'm going to use this for the back of the jumpsuit. I'll remove this and I'm going to fold my fabric again into 2 and cut out for the back of the jumpsuit. If you can notice, you will see that I've added 1/2 inch sewing allowance all around, and for the front extension, the crotch extension for the front, I'm going to add 1.5 inches, and I'm going to drop it down to the hemline just like I did for the front of the jumpsuit. So you go ahead and do the same thing, and then from this angle you will come out 2.5 inches and connect it here. So that is it basically for the back of the jumpsuit. I'll go ahead and cut this out. Everything remains the same except for the side seam that is 1/2 inch. Every other thing, and the crotch extension which I made 1.5, every other thing remains the same thing. So I'll go ahead and cut this out. Remember, if your client is taller than I am, it means you're going to use 3.5 yards. I'm using 3 yards because I'm a normal size. I mean, my length is a normal length. So guys, we'll go ahead to sew this. For the front of the jumpsuit, I've already sewn the center front, as you can see, and I have also gone ahead and cut out facing for it. Can you see? So I'm going to place the strap. I have this is a braided, I don't know what they call it in Nigeria, but I don't know, I can't remember what they call it in Nigeria, but it looks like a braided weave. It looks like it's braided. So that's what I'm using for my spaghetti strap. Remember that we measured 14 inches for the strap, so I added 1 inch to that, which made it 15 inches. So I'm going to cut out 4 pieces for the 2 spaghetti straps. I'm going to place it on the space I made for the spaghetti strap. So just go ahead and use pin to hold it down there. After placing it there, I'll go ahead and use the facing. You cover it up with the facing, and then you're going to go to your machine and you sew it. Just sew 1/2 inch out. This is it after sewing it. Can you see how neat it's looking? Next, we're going to sew the back. So the same thing you did for the front, that's what you're doing for the back. You can see that I have added invisible to the back, invisible zip to the back. So I also cut out facing for it. I'm going to place it. Make sure you align it properly so that it's not twisting. That's why I'm just doing it like this for you guys to understand what I'm doing. So I'm going to go ahead and use pin and hold it down, just the same thing I did to the front, and I'm going to use the facing I cut out and sew it. This is it after sewing the neckline of the jumpsuit. Can you see our jumpsuit is coming up? Next is for us to sew the side seam. So just go ahead and align the facing properly with the facing of the front and the back. You align it properly, and then you're going to go ahead and sew it. After sewing it, this is how it's looking, guys. Can you see? Yeah, so the next thing we're going to do is to sew the crotch. We have basically come to the end of this video. So next thing is to hem the lower part of the jumpsuit. So you fold it into two like this, and that is it, guys. We have come to the end of today's sewing tutorial. I love this strap. I just love this strap. I'll see you guys in my next video. Bye.